Hello, it's Carson Sampson from the Canadian Conference of MB Churches. We're continuing on our video series around frequently asked questions to CCMBC leadership. Given all the changes in financial pressures on the Canadian Conference, do you anticipate a deficit for 2019, or will the books be balanced? When do you plan on releasing the financial statements?
Yeah, so I started with the last part of your question. We always wait for the auditing of the finance to take place, and when that is taking place, then we release the audit financial statements to anyone that wants to see it, particularly to churches. They can access it. So that is coming. As for the deficit, yes, we will end up 2019 in a deficit, and it is 2019 was a difficult year. It's a year where many parts were still struggling. We were building a new collaborative model that required lots of moving parts, so lots of traveling, lots of communications, and so those are the things that are part of this deficit that is coming.
Yeah, this is the hardest question for me to answer because it comes kind of at a gut level, especially as we've just been talking about and releasing the financial story and talking about keeping our promises, and then you know that you end a year in a deficit, and it's going to be a significant deficit. We know that, and so that's really challenging. But as Elton said, it's hard when it's been such a transitional year. You build a budget in a time when everything's changing. It's sort of like building the plane in the air, and you're trying to figure out things as you go. And so we had more travel and things like that than anticipated because we need to gather people for a number of issues that we're dealing with through the year. And even I know Elton working with the national ministry team building this model together. Because we're in a collaborative place now, we own things together. And so even some of the things that happen in Multiply, we as a Canadian Conference needed to absorb some of those costs about that demerger that we hadn't anticipated. And so those were significant. And so we had a legal and moral obligation to engage in some of those things. And there's been other factors as well, too, that we were obligated. And so we're trying to clean those things up and figure out how to budget this better and well. But we know that we'll have a deficit this year. So we're continuing to ask people for patience, keep asking the hard questions, and keep involved and engaged in this. And we'll get it figured out, and we'll get it on the right path.
Yeah, and some of the other things that are relevant in this deficit is a reduced giving by churches to a national budget, which we are hoping that as a new vision unfolds, that this is going to take off again. We also had commitments to church plants. So these church planters were pastors. They're pastoring our churches. These salaries needed to be paid. So these are things that we are expenses that we incur in 2019 that all lead to a deficit.
Yeah, I would say one of the things about church giving that I was actually encouraged by is that, yes, it was down and it wasn't where we had budgeted, but it was still quite strong. And that was encouraging to me because we knew that when we told this financial story and we wanted to be as transparent as we could and tell the story, it was a risk. We said, you know what, we just need to put it out there in front of people, and we didn't know how people would respond. And so the fact that the giving was as strong as it was, I was really encouraged, and I want to say thank you to the churches for continuing that giving. That was a blessing, and even though it wasn't where we had budgeted or hoped for, but it was close, and so we're thankful for that too.
Thank you, gentlemen.